Hey, and welcome back. Today, we are diving deep into ancient Indian political thought. And we're asking a big question. Was it all about spiritual enlightenment, or was there a hardcore strategic mind at work behind the scenes? Let's get into it. For the longest time, the popular image of ancient India, especially from a Western point of view, has been this land of mystics and philosophers, a place totally absorbed in the spiritual, but maybe not so much in the tough, practical world of politics and strategy. Well, today, we're going to challenge that idea head on. And look, this isn't just some vague impression. This viewpoint is summed up perfectly by this quote right here. The basic argument is that while India was making these incredible leaps in philosophy, it was somehow neglecting the nitty-gritty of how to run a state, how to protect it, and how to make it prosperous. We're about to see if that really holds up. So, here's our roadmap. First, we'll unpack why this whole legacy is so debated. Then we're going to explore two massive traditions of political thought. We'll meet the big names behind them, Manu and Kautilya. And then, at the end, we'll ask, what does any of this ancient wisdom have to say to us in the modern world? Okay, so where did this whole spirit, not strategy idea even come from? Well, a lot of scholars today argue it's a very Western-centric perspective, an idea that for a long time kind of overlooked the political genius of other civilizations to, keep its own story at the top of the pile. But here's the thing, the counter-argument is absolutely massive, and you can find it written down in black and white. We're talking about texts like the epic Mahabharata, and especially Kautilya's Artha Shastra. These works are jam-packed with some of the most profound political and strategic thinking you'll ever find. This isn't just a handful of pages, it's a whole library of evidence. Now, to really get a handle on ancient Indian political thought, you've got to know about its two main currents. On one hand, you have the Dharma Shastra tradition, which is all about dharma, that's the social and moral order. And on the other, you have the Artha Shastra tradition, which is focused on Danda, which is all about the power of the state. And this breaks it down perfectly. You see on the left, you've got Manu and the Dharma Shastra, focusing on how we should all behave in society to keep things stable. And on the right, you have Kautilya and the Artha Shastra, which is a straight-up manual for running a state. Think of it like this. One is about social rules, the other is about political strategy. Two totally different playbooks, but both existing at the same time. Okay, we really have to wrap our heads around this concept of dharma. It gets translated as religion a lot, but that doesn't even begin to cover it. The source material actually points to the Rig Veda, which says Prithvi Dharm Dritam, meaning dharma is what holds the earth together. It's the fundamental code of righteous conduct that keeps the whole universe from falling apart. So let's jump into that first tradition and its most famous figure, Manu. He's seen as the original lawgiver, the guy who laid out the blueprint for a perfectly ordered and stable society. Now, to get why Manu's laws were seen as so essential, you have to understand this concept, Matsya Nyaya. It literally means the law of the fish. It's this vision of a world with no rules, a state of total anarchy where the strong just devour the weak. Big fish eating small fish. It's this terrifying possibility that makes the case for having a king and having laws in the first place. And Manu's solution to that chaos was the Varna system, dividing society into 4 distinct classes or functions. The idea was to create a stable society through a clear division of labor. Think of it like a body. The brain, the arms, the legs, each part has a role, and the whole thing only works if they all do their job. But, and this is a huge but, this vision is incredibly controversial. Critics, most famously Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, argued that what might have been intended as a functional system became a rigid, birth-based hierarchy that created deep inequality. He found it so problematic that he famously burned the Manu Smriti in protest. All right, let's switch gears and move to that other great tradition and its undisputed master, Kautilya. Seriously, if you are looking for the smoking gun, the absolute proof of a powerful strategic culture in ancient India, well, this is it. Kautilya is often called the Indian Machiavelli, which is kind of wild when you realize he lived about 1800 years before Machiavelli. His guiding star wasn't morality, it was Artha, material well-being for the state and its people. And his book, the Artha Shastra, is this incredibly practical guide to getting it. It covers everything: taxes, foreign policy, even how to use spies disguised as monks to get intel. So, in Kautilya's mind, what even is a state? Well, it's not just a patch of land.
He saw it as a living, breathing organism. And that organism, to be healthy, needs 7 essential parts, or limbs. This is the core of his Saptanga Theory.
And here they are. You start with the Swami, the king or the leader, right at the center. But as Kautilya points out, a single wheel can't move the chariot. The king is nothing without his ministers, his people and land, strong forts for defense, a full treasury, a powerful army, and, this is key, good, reliable allies. If any one of these limbs is weak, the entire state suffers. Now this is where it gets really fascinating. How did Kautilya see the world map? His mandala, or circle theory, is pure, hard-nosed realism. The logic is brutally simple. Your immediate neighbor is your natural rival, because you're competing for the same stuff. But your neighbor's neighbor? They're your natural friend, because you both share a common rival. Sound familiar?
So how does a smart king deal with other countries? Kautilya laid out 4 methods, the upayas, and you're supposed to use them in order. First, try sama. Talk it out. Use diplomacy. If that doesn't work, try dana. Give them some gifts, make concessions. Still not working? Okay, time for Betha. Start sowing division and chaos among your enemies. And only as a final, last resort, do use Danda. Unleash the army. It's an incredibly pragmatic ladder of escalation.
So when you put these 2 giants of political realism side by side, the parallels are just uncanny. Both believed the state's interest came first, both saw morality as a tool, not rule. But here's the real kicker. You could argue that Kautilya's Artha Shastra is way more detailed, a much more comprehensive how-to guide for running a state, and it was written nearly 2,000 years earlier.
All right, let's bring it all home. What's the real legacy of all this ancient strategic thinking? And more importantly, does any of it still matter in our world today?
I think the great sociologist Max Weber just absolutely nailed it. He argued that Kautilya was so ruthless in his pragmatism, he made Machiavelli look soft. And this quote says it all. When we look at Kautilya's king, Machiavelli's prince appears harmless. Wow, that just tells you everything you need to know about the cold, hard realism of the Artha Shastra.
So let's go all the way back to that first question. Was ancient India just a land of spirit with no strategy? Well, I think the verdict is pretty clear. The evidence, especially from texts like the Artha Shastra, shows us a deep, complex, and homegrown strategic culture that can go toe-to-toe with any other in the ancient world. The myth is officially busted. And that kind of leaves us with one final big question to chew on. In our own complicated world with powers rising and falling, what can we possibly learn from a playbook on statecraft and geopolitics that's over 2,000 years old? I think the answer is maybe a whole lot more than we realize. Thanks for diving in with us.